Hi, David. Thanks for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
My pleasure. Thank you. So first of all, full disclaimer, I am not wearing this in purpose. I was just doing some work and then received your invitation. So I was already wearing this jacket. My name is David Guajardo. I am actually from Mexico. I was born in Mexico City. Then after that, I moved to the north part of Mexico, which is called Matamoros. It's a very small town. You pretty don't have anything except the border with actually Brownsville, Texas, and Boca Chica, Texas, which is weirdly where SpaceX is located right now. So back then, I was not involved in anything related to space. Just I was enjoying doing motocross and action sports and things like that, which is what I like. Then after that, I moved to immigrated actually into the U.S., Brownsville, then Chicago, and then currently I am in Houston, Texas right now. What I do for a living is I am in sales. I have my own business. I guess that's about it.
But so you mentioned you had no clue that you're going to be interviewed today for Countdown to the Moon, but yet you have a NASA sweater on.
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk a little bit more about that.
It's a long story. I'm gonna try to do my best, but when I was actually living in Chicago, I've always loved technology. That's one of the reasons why I decided since I was about a teenager that I wanted to move into the US one way or the other, because that's where, at least under my perspective, the country that holds the most innovation and the most technology evolves very rapidly. So here I am, and then living in Chicago, I started following Tesla and started learning a little bit more about a guy named Elon Musk and things like that. So that's where around 2017 they were doing different attempts to land in the ocean, which nobody has done before. Actually, they are the only ones that have done it until 2022, which is where we are right now. But yeah, back then they were attempting, and then all of a sudden they made it possible around that year. And Elon and his team, they made a very clear statement that actually changed chip in my brain that said that that's like a before and after. And they basically were promising that the future is going to be bright in space and that everyone at some point is going to have the opportunity of being an astronaut. So they were selling this envisioning, which we are very close actually right now. Since that happened, years go fast. But on that day, I started getting attracted into this industry. And after that, it actually became the passion. I started reading books about space. I started falling in love with space. I started taking scuba diving lessons. I am very close to be a scuba diving instructor. I got the opportunity to be a skydiver, a wingsuit pilot, and I already passed the FAA grading test. I'm currently a student to become a private pilot. So the more you dig into the experiences from the actual astronauts and cosmonauts, the more that you realize that there is a certain path, which to be honest, Nathan, I think that path is gonna change. The more the space is going to be cheaper and easier to get, I think they're gonna be scratching out plenty of features. Basically, right now it's impossible for a human being. It's easier to win the lottery or to get struck by a lightning than actually becoming an astronaut. But ever since that happened, I think the path is getting easier for a lot of people. At the point where I think before 2030, any human being is going to be able to accomplish it with less than $5,000, most likely. But the case that I am trying to do here is actually being involved in helping the industry. So basically becoming a professional commercial astronaut. That is my goal. But that's not what I do for a living. I'm working into it. I recently got accepted into the university, Embry-Riddle, of a program of space operations. which I'm going to start this year. So as I told you, the more that you do the research in the paths and get involved in these free sessions that you can interact. I got the opportunity to meet Jim Bridenstine, the former NASA basically director, and got the opportunity to see him in Rice University and attending and meeting more astronauts. So you can find out that there's actually free ways to learn, free videos on YouTube. And the more digging that you do into your passion, the more you learn into it, and you realize that it can be free, something that you really love about, right? So I'm at this point right now. I'm excited about what's coming.
That's amazing. But so if SpaceX did not exist and Elon wasn't doing what he was doing, do you think you would still be interested in space?
No. That's a good question. No, I do not think so. Apart from telescopes and seeing the moon and the planets, which that started when I was about 12 years old. The first time that I ever saw Saturn from a telescope, I got intrigued with it. But no, it was not a passion like it is right now. So I don't think so, because I don't see any other company accomplishing that pace.
And would it be fair to say that what really has you excited is that it looks like space might become so open and so available and so cheap that you personally could go? That is yes. Really like you dreaming about David in space is like the real thing.
Yes, which is when everything changed. So to put another example, when I was in Mexico, I never thought that I was going to have the money to do a skydiving course, which is $2,000. But in Mexico, it's almost impossible to save that, or it's very hard, right? But here in America, it opens the chances to accomplish more. So I really think with SpaceX, they are gonna open that previously.
Well, you talked about Jim Bridenstine. And one of the things that he was really pushing was this idea that we go back to the moon by 2024. Yes. And I was wondering when you first heard about that.
I think it was actually in YouTube, because when I saw him in person, which was probably a few weeks after that, and then I saw him in person 3 times, and all those times, you start seeing different, how do you say when you tell the same things over and over? These patterns of him sharing what was going to happen, which we are getting closer now. But I started, the first time that I heard him, it was actually YouTube, and then in person, it was same wording, but different feelings, right? So I was just super mega excited. But more than actually the Artemis program, which you and I know what that is, I got more excited about the commercial program.
Whenever he did that, I registered the domain moon2024.us. And I just got a notice from GoDaddy that it's about to expire.
Oh my God.
So I was so sad. I was like, oh.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, it's very hard to predict the correct timelines.
I think pretty much everybody was betting against the 2024, but there was so much energy about it that we all wanted to believe. And it really seemed like that if everything lined up just right, if the SLS got rolled out quicker, if COVID didn't happen, if all these other things happened, that it would be possible. It really felt like it could have been.
Yes. But I still support the entire idea of that timeline, because people didn't believe in it, but the entire industry hoped for it. And there are actually very incredible companies, most of them here in the United States that were actually created with or open their own perspectives, like Axiom, like Blue Origin, like Rocket Lab, which is not in the US. Well, it is right now, but they are not here. So I think that message from the organization that is leading the entire space program, which is NASA, that message being sent when they started sharing that. What year was that?
2019 is when they announced it. The same year I started the project.
Okay, 2019. So we are about 3 years after that, and a lot has happened. And there is a huge possibility that a lot has happened because people started believing on that date. So setting up a timeline, me as a business person, I think it brings out a lot of energy into it from the people that are working with it or towards that dream. So I think it's perfect. I think it was actually very good. And since they started doing that, I didn't was betting everything on the SLS, which I know it's an amazing rocket, but I knew the private sector was going to work super mega hard into it. And the pace of innovation that I've seen in Boca Chica, which is where I actually grew up after moving from Mexico City, I just was blown away because I have people that I used to know even before space was created. They are actually working in Starship and putting the Raptors together and things like that. So there's a lot of innovations after Jim Bridenstine announced that, and a lot of participation from the private sector of building these lunar lander concepts. So I think that's super mega exciting, and there's going to be a very good chance that not only NASA is going to land humans with their own rocket, but it may happen before with other private companies. And I'm not even talking about the human landing system. I'm talking about the actual rocket that is going to take them to the lunar orbit. It might not be SLS. We are hoping that it'll be, right? But it might be another company. It might not be even SpaceX. That's the one that I like. That's the one that I am betting 90% of my thoughts into it. I think that's going to be the one, but you never know. But long story short is I think NASA is leaning into that. I think setting up a timeline is super mega important. And we already learned that with JF Kennedy when he said that we were going to go in that decade, and it happened. So I think it's a must. Even if we don't accomplish that, I think it's a very positive thing to set up a timeline. And Jim Bridenstine did an amazing work, and I actually learned a lot about NASA from him and got very excited from the enthusiasm that he brought into the organization. So I got to like him a lot. And he actually granted me a selfie. So I'm very happy to have a selfie with him. But yeah, I think he did a perfect job in getting a lot of people excited and convincing Congress and the politicians, which is very hard to combine those skills into a person. So I didn't got the opportunity to follow previous administrators, but so far he was amazing.
I know, and he and I have something in common. We were both born in 1975, 3 years after the last time that we went to the moon.
Wow.
In fact, he's the only NASA administrator that was not alive when we went to the moon.
That's a good fact. I did not know.
So talking about going back to the moon, what do you think about that?
When do I think it's going to be accomplished?
Oh, no, I mean, what do you think about us going? Is it good, bad? Does it excite you? That type of thing.
Oh, no. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. I see the moon and I see the possibility of being my own office in the future. And sometimes I just go out and set up my telescope. It doesn't matter if it takes me time. And I'm just amazed by seeing the craters with my own telescope. It brings hope. It brings hope to children. if they know that there's humans working there, it can change the planet as far as scientific accomplishments, which you and I, we've seen plenty of good things coming from it, technology side, but I think it can be a combination of taking care of the entire planet by people being out of the planet, which normal people think otherwise. They think it's backwards. They think that, oh, if we go there, we are not taking care of the planet, but scientists and the other ones, they actually tell otherwise in all these documentaries and books that people can watch and read for free. They can learn how do they see the earth from their own perspective. And actually, after they retire, they just cannot stop talking about how beautiful the earth is and how they learn to appreciate the earth more and to take a better care of it after they come back from space. So it basically changes their own mind, and then they go back and they share and they get people excited. So I think it can be a combination between the clean energies like solar and that, climate change, and space. I think they can create a stronger force acting together if we can go back to them. Because people normally they don't get excited of, or they don't even know that the ISS has been habitated since 2000 non-stop.
Yeah, I think 2001, October 31st, continuously occupied. Yeah.
Continuously occupied. Yeah, so it's more than 20 years that has been. People don't realize that. And some of them, they don't even get excited anymore. But it's also different, Nathan, at least under my perspective, if you are able to see something than if you are not. Because if you are in the outskirts of the cities and tell somebody that that is the ISS and they can actually see it, they get very excited. But even in the brightest cities on Earth, even in New York, you can see the moon and it looks beautiful. And if you know that there's somebody working there, and now it's going to be different because you don't have to travel 50 miles to see television. Now I'm pretty sure there's going to be like high definition, streamed, almost immediate from the moon. So people and kids are going to realize that every night, when the night is, some days of the month, they can see the moon and know for a fact that there's people working there seeing you on Earth. And yeah, it's just beautiful. And that's, sorry for the long answer, but it's just a very small thing that I can share about that. The more that we can think of, the more excited we can get and share different perspectives of what's going to happen if that happens. Yeah.
I definitely agree with you. So in 200 years, how far do you think we could go? Do you see cities on the moon, cities on Mars, cities on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn? Like, how far do you think we could get in 200 years?
My lifetime, if God gives me the opportunity to be 80 years old or more, I think we will not pass Mars, but we will land into Mars. I've seen the pace of innovation of a few companies that are not Tesla and are not SpaceX, but I'm going to use that example because people know about them. But I've started seeing the innovation that Tesla has accomplished, and it's not normal. So if somebody can accomplish that, and somebody that is passionate and has the resources, and NASA is helping towards that, and they are not afraid to fail and to innovate. So I think all that learning process can get implemented into a rocket company. And what I try to explain to people is that it is very different when you create a program that is going to build a rocket every 5 years or a rocket every year, which is not normal. It's hard to build a rocket every year that is a functional rocket. But if you have a guy that is an expert in producing almost 5,000 cars a week, and if they're going to get very close to 1 million cars a year, I think they are already there already. And so the goal is not to build a rocket a year, not even a month, not even a week. They want to build a rocket every 3 days. So if you compare that craziness has been already accomplished with cars. And if you go to Boca Chica, Texas, you can see that there's rockets being made on a crazy fast-paced speed. And they already created impossible things that even astronauts were telling NASA to not let this guy try this because it's not possible. And then all of a sudden, it was possible. And everything is reusable now. So if that happens, and if a rocket is being made every 3 days, it's going to be hundreds of rockets that can carry not one astronaut, not 3 astronauts like the ones that we used to go to the moon, but at least a minimum of 10, 30 astronauts. And the number that they have is 100 to 1,000, 1,000 if they are cramped, to go from point A to point B inside the Earth. So I don't want to take a lot of time from your audience, but if you go back to history, you can see that the same things were already applied into the airline industry. So after 16 years of people crossing the transatlantic, after 16 years, there were companies already being created just to get people to travel from one place to the other one. And those companies were purchasing airplanes like crazy. Maybe not hundreds, but at least 10 to transport 1,000 of humans crossing the Atlantic. And now you just look up like 5 minutes and you're gonna see an airplane with 100 plus people.
Friday evening, I hopped on an airplane. I went down to Mexico City, stayed for the weekend, come back on Sunday, and it was like nothing. You know, it's just like snapping my fingers, boom.
There you go. I finally got the opportunity late in my years to visit my sister who lives in France. I told you about this a few weeks ago, and I landed yesterday. Yeah, from Paris to Houston one day. So I said bye, and the next time I was already in Houston having dinner with my family.
You went there to go see how the elections would turn out?
No, but they were freaking out. Yeah, my sister has lived there for 20 years already. So her daughters were talking about a lot of that. But yeah, everything's gonna stay normal with Macron. But yeah. So imagine how impossible that was. Not even the Wright brothers, I think they were in disagreement that airplanes were ever going to accomplish crossing the ocean. And they are the ones responsible for us having thousands of airplanes on the air every second. And they were not even believers of something like that can get accomplished. And that happened, how many years ago that happened?
Like 1900 or 1901, something like that.
And back then, even when we went to the moon, you and I have more computational power in a ring, in a smart ring.
In your ear.
Yeah. So we're gonna go. We're gonna create cities on Mars. It's going to be super hard. I would like to be one of the first Mexican people to go to Mars, if possible. But I also know, as Elon says, that there's gonna be a lot of people that is gonna die, most likely. But it's just part of history.
So far, everybody that's gone to the Earth has died.
Yes, yeah. And I think people are explorers, and there's unavailable. unavoidable. And even if we don't accomplish that, civilization is going to end at some point or the other one, right? Either meteorites or World War III, which hopefully we're far away from that, or the moon is gonna eat the Earth. Yeah, I'm sorry, the sun is gonna eat the Earth in millions of years. So it is impossible to avoid that. But if people don't work towards that or don't support it, it's not going to be automatically happen because technology gets lost in time. Just like we forgot how the pyramids were built, right? Or the Romans created the aqueducts, or NASA went to the moon, and all of a sudden they were not even capable of going to the moon. And then all of a sudden they were not even capable of going to space, and they needed to pay the Russians $30 to $50 million per astronaut. So it's not something that automatically gets better only if people are excited and working into it, and if they are passionate, and if they have the support from the government like NASA did. So if you and I don't do a good job getting people excited, like I'm amazed of what you have accomplished, and thank you. We need like people like you that are doing amazing things towards this beautiful industry. But we really need the support of the people in order to accomplish huge things like that. But yeah, I think there's always going to be different perspectives of seeing that. We're always going to have people that are against accomplishing that. But to answer your question after 10 minutes, sorry, it's a yes. It's a yes. We're going to have bases on the moon. We're going to have bases on Mars. We're going to have houses. There's going to be everyday normal people, even getting burnt in those places. Sorry, getting alive. Que nacen ahí. How do you say that?
Getting born.
They are getting born. Sorry.
Born.
Born.
Children and generations will be raised in those places. Maybe some of them never even know Earth.
Hopefully not, but maybe. Because I do think that the Earth is beautiful, but I am passionate about exploring, just like we are doing, exploring the oceans, exploring the mountains. People still die exploring the mountains, exploring the oceans, being scuba divers. They die probably every day doing that. And still we do it.
Now, you're here in 2020. I asked you about 200 years from now. I like to turn that question around backwards. So your great-great-great-granddaughter has lived on Mars her entire life. And it's like 2020, 200 years in the future. And she's in high school right now. Can you believe your great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter is in high school? And they're doing a history project on what the 2020s was like. So she's looking back at you at this moment in time. What should she write about?
Oh my God. That's a very hard question. No. Sorry, I just understood your question. That's where everything was born. Most likely there's gonna be what they are going to be sharing about. I think that's going to be where everything started, where people were starting to get multiplanetary species. And that's why I think that's going to be one of the, if not the greatest accomplishments of us as a human race, being a multiplanetary species, apart from being the greatest adventure ever in human history, getting to another planet and actually going there to live. And the moon is as Jim Bridenstine said, it is like a camping day, like camping in your backyard. It's easy to come back. It just takes a day or 3 days at most to get back from the moon. So that's where we're going to be learning that. And after that, then it comes a huge trip with probably a few quantities of food, risking it a little bit more, but But yes, I think it's going to be, we are going to be, you and I and all the people that are alive right now are going to be remembered forever if this gets accomplished. If we get to be a multiplanetary living civilization before 2040. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, David, I know we talked about quite a bit, and those are all the questions I had. But is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
No, but it'll be good if we can have another conversation in a few, maybe after the orbital flight from Starship.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Maybe we could go down to Boca Chica and watch it launch. And we could do it immediately after it launches.
Oh, yes. Please. And the people that are hearing us right now, I just want to tell them that there's nothing like seeing your first rocket going into space. If you ever have the opportunity, try to see that, or even try to see satellites or the International Space Station. So right now it's getting easier and easier to try to track that. Just Google it and you can be a part of it and understand that it's normal people, dads and moms that are working there and that are coming from space and going to space, and you can watch it, even though if you are not in it a few kilometers away, you can be far, far away from it and you can watch it. So that'll be my encouragement, to take an adventure trip and go to Disneyland Orlando and travel for an hour and see your first rocket launch if you have not done so already. And people don't know that there's almost at least one rocket being launched every week. So yeah, that's my invitation. Be a part of that. And the most important thing, if you have never seen the moon through a telescope, please, please, please do it. Please take your family, please take your children, and please just watch the moon. Not when it's full, because that's not when it's most beautiful. When it's half moon, it's just gorgeous to see the craters and everything. And you probably with a $80 telescope, you'll have a good perspective.
Maybe some Wednesday or Thursday nights we get together out here in the League City area and have like public viewings on a nice moonlit night.
Yes, yeah, count on me for that. And there's another one. When I moved from Chicago to Houston, I started attending this events at the park, but it's in downtown. So it's once a month, and people take their telescope and volunteer. I've done so a few times. So I'm glad that COVID is over. So I'm gonna get back into that and getting people more excited. So I invite you to go there next time too. We can go together.
Well, sounds good. Well, thank you so much, David. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.